morning, Flatirons. I am joined here today with our worship director, Kevin. He is over our entire worship program here, and so if you like what you hear, it's probably because of this guy. Speaking of what we hear, you normally lead worship from behind a drum set. How do you do that? What is that even like?
Well, it's great because I get to hang out with worship leaders all the time, and I get to play drums, which you don't want to hear me sing, so it's kind of a win-win situation for all of us.
That's pretty much the coolest instrument ever. You should know that.
Yeah, drums are the best.
Okay, you guys have been writing songs recently. Specifically this year, you've been focusing a lot on writing original Flatirons music. What does that even look like? How do you even get started in that?
We actually started writing songs for the most part right when we went into lockdown for the whole COVID thing. We had some extra time on our hands and all of us were working from home, and it actually turned out to be a great season of questioning things. Where's the world going? What's going on here? And everyone had their own little studio space, and we kind of just started kicking out some ideas, and one thing led to another, and now we've got a bunch of songs that we've all been singing for the last couple years.
All right, for most of us, we see you guys either on a screen or sitting in these seats right now. So if there was that one thing you wish people would know about worship, what is it?
I would say don't let the stage throw you off. I think one of the things everyone that's up here on stage wants is to invite everyone in the room to be a part of it, and that goes for online too. We have something to say to God, and we want to inspire you guys to jump in with us and be a part of that with us. So,
if you guys want to be a part of what Kevin is talking about, we actually need volunteers for both our worship team and our production team to make this weekend happen. So if you're interested in that, you can go to flatirons.com/volunteer and see all of our opportunities right there. And right now you're going to see a sneak peek at our latest Flatirons original, Faith is Rising Up.
How's it going? What's the version?
So, Faith is Rising Up. If I'm gonna be completely honest, it's a very vulnerable song for me because I wrote it fresh off of the move here to Colorado. This move was an answered prayer. There were still prayers that we have as a family. New baby, I'm a new dad. We're growing in our faith, growing in our marriage. And I grabbed Nate and I was like, hey, I got this idea. Can you help me flesh it out? And of course, he literally just gets on the keys and he's like, boom, 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 boom. Next thing I know, the song is ready, but we needed a bridge. And
I don't remember. In D right now.
We didn't have the thing that I felt like was what we were trying to say for the whole song. And that's where the line came from, where we said, I'm confident and my faith is sure. I'm gonna see what I'm praying for.
I'm gonna see what I'm praying for.
When life just gets real, you have to have faith to believe that you're gonna see what you're praying for. And sometimes that means that you gotta walk into a room of believers and you've gotta just gather and agree that God is our focus, He's all we need. And when He moves, everything else that needs to move will get out of the way.
We have gathered.
Hi, I'm Mark Patterson, and I hope you enjoy Faith is Rising Up from Flatirons Music.
We're ready for you. Somebody shout this out. Sing it. Sing it. We're ready.
Well, hey, what's up, Flatirons? Come on and stand. We're going to sing. We do this every week where we gather together. And the Bible says that as we lean into God, as we lean into His presence, that He's faithful to lean back into us. So does anybody need that this morning? So come on, we sing. Come on, every voice, God of wonders. God of wonders, fill this room. You're invited, do what you do, we're ready for you. We're ready for you. And we have gathered, we agree, you are our focus, you're all we need, we're ready for you. We're ready for you. Come on, we sing. Faith is rising up, and it's breaking through the doubt. Faith is rising up, the sound of heaven all around. We hear it now. Faith is rising up. Faith is rising up. Faith is rising up. Faith is rising up. Come on. We have gathered. We agree. You are our focus. You're all we need. We're ready for it. We're ready for cruise. Faith is rising up, and it's breaking through the town. Faith is rising up, the sound of heaven all around. We hear it now. Faith is rising up. 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 And I'm confident my faith is sure. I'm gonna see what I'm praying for. Your providence holds me secure. I'm gonna see what I'm praying for. Faith is rising up, and it's breaking through the doubt. Faith is rising up, the sound of heaven all around. We hear it now. Come on. Faith is rising up. 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 I'm confident my faith is sure.
for dead in your way. You crashed those angel gates, and you left no stone unturned. You stepped out of that grave and chosen me your way. So here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out, 'cause once I was broken, but you love my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace owns me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace owns that ground. Your grace owns me now. Your grace owns me now. Your grace owns me now, Jesus. Your grace owns me
When we sing, here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Yeah. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Sing, here I stand. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you. In boldness we can stand here. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. 'Cause once I was broken, but you love my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace owns me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace owns that ground. And your grace owns me now. 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 'Cause there's no prison wall that you can't through, no mountain you can't move. All things are possible. Come on, we sing. If there's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. God of revival, let hope arise. Death is overcome. on, every voice we sing. Come awaken. Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out. We believe every stronghold will crumble, and I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Come awaken your people. Come awaken this city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour. Come on. Every stronghold will crumble, and I hear the chains hit the ground. We believe, oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. So God, we believe that this morning, that nothing compares to your name, Jesus. That nothing can stand up against your name, God. That no prison wall that we've put or anyone else has put around our life can stand a chance against your name, Jesus. God, we thank you for the promise of the cross. That it doesn't matter what we've done, it doesn't matter what we've walked in with today, God, but that your cross, because of what Jesus did on it, you call us clean, and you call us sons and daughters, God. And we lean into that truth this morning, God. We're thankful for that truth. What a beautiful name it is, the name of Jesus, God. We love you, we thank you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Well, amen. Hey, Flatirons. Thanks so much for being with us today. Thanks so much for singing and leaning in with us. Before you take your seat, why don't you turn? You can greet somebody, and then you can have your seat. Hey, if you're joining us online, thanks so much for being with us. You're just as much a part of this church as everyone here in this room. And so thanks so much. Feel free to type in the comment section because we'd love to hear from you guys.
Hey, what's up, Flatirons? How are you guys doing this morning? Good? Hey, thanks so much for being here for this really special service, praying for the Broncos, healing over the Broncos. We're going to have stations across the front here. I'm joking, obviously. Praying for them is like praying that my mustache grows in fuller. Just won't happen. So dumb. I don't know why I do this. Hey, I'm Paul. I'm one of the pastors here on staff. I'm so glad that you guys are here, especially if you're new around here. We're so glad that you're with us, so glad that you spent an hour out of your weekend to be with us. We'd love to meet you, and so after service, before you take off, come say hi. We're going to be out in the lobby. We'd love to meet you and answer anything, any questions that you might have before you take off today. Well, I got a couple of things for us. They all have to do with next weekend. Next weekend is Halloween, and so you've probably been hearing about Trunk or Treat. Well, Trunk or Treat is happening at all of our campuses. If you're wondering what time and where, just hop on our website, flatironschurch.com. You can find all that there. But here specifically at Lafayette, we're going to be here on Saturday from 2 to 5, and we still need trunks. We still need candy. It's not too late to sign up for that stuff. But be here next week. And I wanted to say this about Trunk or Treat. Now, you might have a coworker, a friend, a family member who just continually says no to church with you. If you ask them, they say no. This is one thing that maybe, just maybe, they say yes to because it's not in church. We're going to have a great time. We're going to get to know each other, have some laughs, maybe get your kids all jacked up on Mountain Dew. But be here, bring some friends. It's going to be a great time next weekend. On Sunday next weekend, Jim is back, and he's starting a brand new series. Historically, we've called these Man series, but this series is called Man Down, Man Up. Ben's going to talk a little bit about it today, but I can't wait for this series. You're going to want to be here, so again, invite your friends. It's going to be a great series for us. Ben is here. He's got a great message for us, and he's going to talk a little bit about how in life sometimes we need to just pause. Take a reset, take a time out so that we don't quit on life, but we actually go the distance. Reluctantly crouched at the starting line, engines thumping and pumping in time. The green light flashes, the flags go up, churning and burning, you reach for the cup.
They deftly maneuver and muscle for rank, fuel burning fast on an empty tank. Reckless and wild, they bore through the turns. Their prowess is potent and secretly stern. As they speed through the finish, the flags go down. The fans get up and they get out of town. The arena is empty, except for one man still driving and striving as fast as he can. The sun has gone down and the moon has come up. And long ago somebody left with the cup. But he's striving and striving and hugging the turns and thinking of someone for whom he still burns. 'Cause he's going the distance. He's going for speed. She's all alone in a time of need. Because he's racing and pacing and plotting the course. He's fighting and biting and riding on his horse. He's going the distance. No trophy, no flowers, no flashbulbs, no wine. He's haunted by something he cannot define. Bowel-shaking earthquakes of doubt and remorse assail him, impale him with monster truck force. In his mind, he's still driving, still making the grade. She's hoping that in time her memories will fade. Cause racing and pacing and plotting the course, he's fighting and fighting and riding on his horse. The sun has gone down and the moon has come up, and long ago somebody left with the cup. But he's striving and driving and hugging the turns, and thinking of someone for whom he still burns. Cause he's going the distance, he's going for speed. She's all alone in her time of need. Because he's racing and pacing and plotting the course. He's fighting and fighting and riding on his horse. He's racing and pacing and plotting the course. He's fighting and fighting and riding on his horse. He's going the distance, he's going for speed. He's going the distance.
Yes, Flatirons, what's up? We good? Good. Hey, I'm Ben. I'm the teaching pastor here. Glad you're here. I love that song. That's on like par. That's on brand for the kind of music I like. I like weird music. It's me and one other guy over here. That's fine. Let's hang. It actually has a lot to do with what we're talking about today, though, too. That song's all about like going the distance and running this race. And today we're going to talk about like, if life is a race, let's run it to win the thing. And so it has a lot to do with what we're talking about today. But to kind of set it up for us, what we're talking about, I want to tell you a story. All right, because I've played baseball my entire life. I played from like ages, I was like 5 or something through my senior year of high school. I still love baseball. I believe it is the best, most perfectly designed game that's ever been created. All right, I know that there are lots of you who disagree and you're like, baseball's boring. It's just that you're wrong. All right, baseball is like the aged, refined bourbon of the sports world. All right, football's like Coors Light. That's fun, right? Soccer, I don't know. Soccer's like drinking a White Claw or something. Sorry, soccer fans. To be fair, another reason I grew up playing baseball and I loved it so much is it was good for someone like me. Like, because baseball is all about reflexes and situational awareness, meaning you don't have to be tall or able to tackle someone to play it, neither of which I could do. But even today, of my, I don't know, like 13 years or whatever playing baseball, there's really only one game and one situation that I can remember in complete detail. It was my favorite moment of my very illustrious athletic career. And I want to share it with you now. All right, so I'm a freshman, and freshman in high school, I started on our school's JV baseball team, but then we had a small school, so I also sat the bench for our varsity team in case someone got injured or got sick or whatever. And in this particular game, I'm riding the bench at a varsity game, and we're playing our local rival. And we come out the gate strong, like we get 6 runs in the very first inning, but then after that, slowly for the rest of the game, it's like, our team just kept making stupid errors, and they were swinging at stuff way outside the zone, and it just looked like they quit, like they gave up. It looked like they were playing as if they had already lost, and I'm watching the whole thing happen, like just groaning on the bench. All right, our rival climbs back into the game. They take the lead. It's 7-6 now, and when that happens, our coach is furious. All right, like most high school coaches, this guy ran hot to begin with. Now he's very mad at us. And so in between innings, he just walks into the dugout. He's like, everyone sit down and shut up. And he's pacing back and forth in the dugout. He's red in the face, and he launches into a tirade. And he starts his tirade by asking us this question. He goes, does anybody want to win this thing? All right, if you've played competitive sports, we've all heard all of our coaches say that. Does anybody want to win this thing? So he launches into this tirade, but I'm a freshman. All right, so my cognitive development isn't really completed yet. And so I don't know the difference between a genuine question and a rhetorical question. So he goes, does anybody want to win this thing? And then he just starts yelling about the next thing while I awkwardly raise my hand and go, I do, coach. The whole dugout just pauses and stares at me like I'm an idiot, because I am. And then coach, after staring at me, he just goes, what'd you say, footy? That was my nickname back on my teams. He goes, what'd you say, footy? And then I spoke up again. Less confidently, but I was still like, I said I do, coach. I would like to win this thing, sir. And he just stares at me for like what felt like another few decades, and he's staring until he finally speaks up, and all he says is, he goes, okay then, footy, you're in for Gibson, and get ready, you're on deck. And that was it. He didn't finish his tirade. He didn't keep yelling at us. He just subbed me into the game. All right? Now, looking back, I wouldn't have done that. All right? Also, looking back, I realized that, like, coach is trying to teach our team a lesson. Like, Gibson is a senior. He is tall. He can tackle people. He looks like he wants to kill me. But basically, the lesson that we're being taught is coach is basically saying, like, I'll sub in a freshman for one of our best players because all that really matters is you have to want the thing if you want to play. Again, I don't understand all that nuance, and so I'm just like, I think I just made varsity. This is awesome. Right? It's bottom of the ninth. Our first hitter knocks a triple into the corner, and now I'm up to the plate to hit. And as I walk up there, something happens. It's just like fear sets in. Right? Because it's like, holy crap, I told my team I'd win this thing for us, and if I get up here and I strike out right now, I'm going to look like a fool, and they'll never stop talking about it. I just get completely terrified. And if it wouldn't have been more embarrassing to just walk back to the dugout and tell coach, like, never mind, I would have done that. But instead, I had to just like overcome this fear and this pressure and just stand into the box ready to swing. And much to my surprise, what ended up happening is I helped our team win this game. It was awesome. All right? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll be accepting trophies after this. And I'll show you game film sometime. I help him win. I get into the box, and my third base coach is tugging at his ear. That means sack bunt. And so I lay down this beautiful bunt. It scores the tying run. I actually make it to first. I steal second. I later make it to third on an error, and then I get knocked in for the winning run. And it was just awesome. And, oh, again, I am quite the athlete. You guys are too encouraging. It was awesome. And coach, by the way, shocked. Pretty sure he soiled himself. And then the entire team, it was great. They chanted, footy, footy, the whole bus ride home, everyone except for Gibson. It was awesome. All right, now side note, I think it's hilarious that I just told you a sports story where I'm the hero. That's funny to me. I promise it's the only story like that I've got. And sometime I'm sure I'll tell you embarrassing stories about like my incredibly short football career or my surprisingly long basketball career, actually. But I'm not reliving glory days here, all right? There's a reason I'm talking about this, and it's because baseball, like any good sport, is a lot like life. And this game that I just told you about, it's a lot like what I want to talk about today because our team was defeated. And once that mentality of defeat sets in, if you don't like actively battle it, you start playing like you've already lost and you lose focus and you make dumb mistakes and you convince yourself that you just can't win this one. And of course, when you start playing like you've already lost, what happens is eventually you lose. And so our coach had to take this like mini timeout and deliver the speech that coaches have passed down from generation to generation all across the world. He had to shake us out of the mentality of defeat and ask us, does anybody want to win this thing? We got a winner over here. Nice. Let's go. I have a whole sermon to convince you of this, though. Yeah, you had to ask, does anybody want to win this thing? And then the second I raise my hand, of course, coach follows that with, okay, then get up. You got to get up off the bench and jump into the game. And this weekend, we're going to take a timeout. Right, for just 1 week before we jump into our very next series, because I want us to ask ourselves the very same question. Does anybody want to win this thing? And what I mean by that, you don't know what you're signing up for yet. I won't clap yet. What I mean by that is, does anybody want to win at, for example, dating or relationships and sex? Right? Do you want to win at that? Or do you want to win at marriage or parenting? Or do you want to win at your career? Or to jump right to the most important thing that affects everything else, does anybody want to win at this whole following Jesus thing or not? And I believe, it's already been proven, I believe that most of us would say yes. All right, yes, absolutely, I want to win this thing. But honestly, when I look around at our world and when I look at parts of my own life, all right, so I'm guilty of this too. But when I look around, what I see is a bunch of people who took a few L's. All right, you took some losses, and then you switched into this mentality of defeat, and you've started playing like you've already lost. And we're not sitting the bench, like in my story. Instead, we're sitting on the couch with our phones or our TVs, and we're telling ourselves, like, I don't even know how to begin fixing my marriage or my addiction or my loneliness, and so I would rather just binge watch the next Netflix show until I'm numb than try to figure out how to start winning at this thing. And we lose focus, and we start making dumb mistakes, and we convince ourselves that we just can't win this one, and so we're sitting on the couch playing like we've already lost. We gave up. And at the same time, I get it. All right, because it's terrifying to raise your hand and say, put me in, coach. Right? What I mean by that is it's terrifying to go to your spouse, for example, and say, hey, listen, we've been drifting apart and I haven't done anything about that, but I want to change that. I want to get into the game and I want our team, like Team Ben and Allie, I want our team to win. That's scary. It comes with fear and it comes with suddenly all this pressure where it's like, you got to deliver, dude, if you say that. And the alternative is easy because the alternative is just keep sitting the bench. Keep sitting on the couch, playing like you've already lost, and blaming everyone else other than yourself for the fact that your marriage and your sex life, your parenting, whatever, you're just losing. And I don't know about you, but I would rather risk fear by jumping into the game than risk failure by sitting the bench. And so I'll ask it one more time. Does anybody want to win this thing? Boom. Then I guess I'm done. There's this moment where Jesus asks us the same question. He just phrases it a little differently. And I want to share this moment with you. It's a moment where he actually heals someone. He performs a miracle. And it's in John chapter 5. So I want to kind of read through this story together. We'll break it down as we go and see what it means for our lives. All right? So we'll pick it up in John chapter 5, verse 1. This is how the story starts. All right? So sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now, there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. And here, at this pool, a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. All right, so time out. A few weeks ago, we talked about Jesus' parables and how they're fictional stories that contain a spiritual truth. And Jesus' miracles always work the same way. Jesus' miracles are out-of-this-world illustrations of a spiritual truth. And so I want to break this story down so that we can figure out what is the spiritual truth behind the miracle that Jesus is about to perform. All right, so let's figure out our setting. We've got a public pool. Right, a public pool called Bethesda, and people who needed healing used to sit and chill by this pool all day long, every single day. Why? Well, when you dig into the history of this pool called Bethesda, you realize that at the time there was a rumor. All right? And as rumor had it, once every now and then, like a couple times a year, once every now and then the water in this pool would bubble and foam and start to slosh around on its own, like for no good reason. And whenever that happened with the water, the first person into the pool would immediately be healed of any and all physical ailments. That was the rumor. And so these people sitting by the pool of Bethesda, They're hoping for a magical fix to their problems. Right? They are crossing their fingers and they're wishing upon a star. And it sounds ridiculous at first, but before we laugh at them, we have to realize we do this all the time. It just looks different. For example, we've got multiple credit cards and we keep spending this magical money that we didn't actually earn, and then we miss a few payments, and that's when you really start to feel that interest rate, but we keep swiping the card anyway. Why? Because it'll all work out eventually, right? Like we're crossing our fingers and we're wishing on a star. It's like, one of these days I'll win the lottery or something, and then the first thing I'll do with that money is I'll pay off all of this debt, right? That's what I tell myself. It's like if I ever win the lottery, I'll get suddenly very responsible with my money. I'm not going to buy a car or anything. I'll give most of it away. Right? Another example, maybe our sex lives are a train wreck and we know it. We've been hurt or we've hurt other people, and we can't count the number of people we've slept with. We can count the number of people we've loved. It's 0. But what do we keep doing? We keep swiping right. Maybe something will happen. We're crossing our fingers and we're wishing upon a star. Like one day Tinder will help me find my soulmate or whatever. And it's not going to happen. Right? We might not be sitting by a mysterious magical pool called Bethesda, but at the same time, in different parts of our lives, we are crossing our fingers and we're wishing upon a star. Like maybe this will all work itself out on its own, or maybe something or someone else will come and magically fix these problems of mine. That's what's happening at the Pool of Bethesda. It's a group of people, and they're in the mentality of defeat, and they've suffered for a really long time, and they don't know what to do about it anymore, and so they've started playing as if they've already lost. They're crossing their fingers, wishing upon a star. Maybe there will be a magical fix for my problems. All right, back to our story. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. So this guy has been wishing on a star for a really long time. And when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, Jesus asked the man, "Do you want to get well?" And this part's fascinating to me. Because I'm pretty sure it is the only time that Jesus ever asked someone if they want to see a miracle in their life. Like every other time, Jesus either just heals someone without asking, or it's the person suffering who asks Jesus, "Hey, Jesus, could you please heal me?" But in this case, Jesus is the one who asks, and he says, "Do you want to get well?" In other words, do you want to win this thing? Now, this guy has suffered for 38 years, and so of course the answer is yes. Yes, of course I want to get well. But at the same time, Jesus isn't asking a dumb question. He doesn't ask us dumb questions ever. He asks us meaningful questions. And so why is this question a meaningful question? Well, remember, he's standing in the middle of a large crowd of people who are defeated. They're playing like they've already lost, and they're waiting for a magical fix to their problems. And so I think when Jesus asks this, what he's implying is, do you want to get well? Because it doesn't look like it by the way you're living your life. Like, do you want to win this thing? Because it doesn't look like it by the way you're sitting the bench. All right, next, here's how the man replies. "Sir," the invalid replied, I got no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. And like when I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. This is a very common response for anyone who feels currently defeated and you're playing like you've already lost. When confronted with the idea that our life maybe isn't doing too well, we want to respond with blame. Right? He starts playing the blame game. Like, my life isn't what I want it to be, but that's not my fault. And honestly, I see the blame game everywhere right now. Or just get on Facebook and you'll see it. For example, the other day on Facebook, I saw, this is all in like 5 minutes, I saw COVID was blamed on Trump. It was blamed on Biden. It was blamed on unvaccinated people. It was blamed on vaccines. It was blamed on China. I even saw something where they were trying to blame it on the state of Florida. It's the only one where I was like, well, maybe. Florida's weird. We've got this society that's conditioned to point fingers at other people and other movements and other political parties and just blame other people for our own problems, because it's easier to sit the bench and blame other people, and it's risky to get off the bench and jump into the game and do something constructive with the problem that you're facing. And so we play the blame game, but the blame game doesn't fix anything. And the blame game doesn't help us find solutions, and it doesn't end in healing and unity. It just keeps us separated and stuck. And I think it's worth looking at right now. Have we taken this blame game thing and moved it into our personal lives? Because if you find yourself playing the blame game all the time, chances are you are playing as if you've already lost. For example, you go, my marriage is on the ropes, but that's not my fault, that's her fault. Right? Or my anxiety is through the roof, but that's my kid's fault. And I'm burnt out and I'm exhausted, but that's my boss's fault. And I'm lonely and I'm disconnected, but that's my generation's fault. To any of us playing the blame game right now, I'll ask you the same question Jesus asked. Do we want to get well? Because it doesn't look like it by the way we're pointing fingers and blaming others for our own lives. And so Jesus asks, do you want to get well? And the man responds with the blame game. He's not making Jesus' job any easier here, but what's nuts is that even though this guy is defeated and he's playing as if he's already lost and he's waiting for a magical fix and he's blaming other people for his own problems, even though he's doing all this stuff, Jesus heals him anyway. Look at this, next verse. Then Jesus said to him, get up. Get up, pick up your mat, and walk. And at once, the man was cured, and he picked up his mat, and he walked. Remember, Jesus' miracles are out-of-this-world illustrations of spiritual truth. And here's the truth that I believe Jesus is communicating to this man and communicating to everyone else at the Pool of Bethesda, and he's communicating to us right now. The truth is, like the man in this story, if you want to, you could sit for decades on the couch, waiting for some magical fix for your marriage or your parenting or your sex life or your financial trouble, you name it. More importantly, you could spend decades crossing your fingers and wishing upon a star and just hoping that your soul and your spirit, your entire life finds and bumbles and stumbles across some mysterious magical healing. You could do that if you want. Or you could just ask Jesus and be healed. The risky thing with asking Jesus is that he is also not a magical fix. He's not. He doesn't go, oh, thanks for asking. Okay, boom, now your marriage is all better. Thanks for asking. He doesn't work that way. He's going to respond to us every single time the way he responds to this man in the story. He's going to ask us, do you want to get well? Does anybody want to win this thing? And then if you say yes, his reply is always the same. He's going to say, okay then, get up. Get up. Pick up your mat and start walking. Stop crossing your fingers waiting for a magical fix, and stop pointing your fingers and blaming other people for your problems. Get up. Jesus is saying, get off the couch and start living like I told you to live, because I promise my way of life is simply better for you. Jesus is telling us, if you want to get well, get up. And to be clear, all right, I'm not saying pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and I'm not saying put a smile on your face even though everything is falling apart. Instead, I'm saying get up off the couch, stand up straight even though you feel defeated, and start walking, meaning take one step in the direction that you already know Jesus wants you to go. You already know what it is. Take the first step in the right direction with your marriage, your parenting, your friendships, your health, you name it. You already know the one thing that you could start doing differently or better in that area. So do it. If you want to get well, get up. Stop playing like you've lost and start playing to win. It's this awesome moment where a guy named Paul, he says basically the exact same thing. He goes, play to win. Right? And he says it in this letter that he wrote to a bunch of Jesus followers who were living in a place called Corinth. And Corinth at the time was home to something called the Isthmian Games. And at the time, the Isthmian Games were second in popularity and esteem only to the Olympic Games. And so Paul knows he's talking to a bunch of sports fans, and so he uses a sports metaphor. And he says this. He goes, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get that prize. Paul says if life is like a race, you should play to win. Okay, how do we play to win? Well, I can tell you it's for sure not by sitting on the sidelines with a mentality of defeat, pointing your fingers and blaming everyone else for why you're sitting this race out. Instead, it's going to take hard work, which is exactly what he says next. Paul says everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. All right, so playing to win is going to take training. He goes, they do it to get a crown that will not last. If you won an Isthmian game, you would get like a floral wreath that would eventually decay. So he goes, they do it to get a crown that won't last. We do it to get a crown that'll last forever. A life with Jesus is an eternal prize. Then he says, therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly, and I do not fight like a man beating the air. So playing to win is going to take focus. He goes, no, I beat my body and I make it my slave. So playing to win is going to take self-discipline. And he goes, I do all that so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Paul says, play to win. Get up off the couch and get into the game. He's saying the same thing Jesus said. If you want to get well, get up. How do you do that? Well, playing to win is going to take, first of all, focus. Focus. Like, dude, you have to know what you're aiming at. You have to. You got to be able to answer that question and articulate it. For example, if you're dating right now, what are you aiming at? With your marriage, with your parenting, your career, you name it, like what are you aiming at? If you can't see and articulate the bullseye, you are not going to hit it. And Jesus gives us focus. He goes, I can help like craft for you these perfect bullseyes that you should be aiming all the important parts of your life at. Playing to win is going to take focus. Playing to win is also going to take self-discipline, and that's true across the board. Right? If you want to lose the weight, you've got to change the way you eat. And if you want to gain muscle, you have to go to the gym. And if you want to get an A, you have to hit the books. It's not different with a life with Jesus. It takes self-discipline. That's what our entire 35-day challenge that we just went through together, that's what it's all about, building new disciplines into our life. Playing to win takes focus, it takes self-discipline, and then it also takes training. In other words, it takes time. Right? You won't lose the weight or gain the muscle overnight. Instead, you've got to undergo a training program for a consistent, sustained amount of time. In the same way, following Jesus is like a spiritual training program. It's going to take time, but I promise you're going to see change. See, I believe that Jesus is asking us today the same question that he asked the crippled man. He's asking specifically those of us who feel defeated, or those of us who are crossing our fingers and waiting for the thing to work itself out on its own, or any of us who are pointing fingers and blaming other people for our problems. He's asking us, do you even want to get well? And if the answer is yes, then he's saying, okay then, if you want to get well, get up. Get off the bench and get into the game. Jump off the couch and jump back into the most important areas and relationships of your life, and do it with focus and self-discipline and training. Let me give us a couple of ideas for how you can get off the couch and get back into the game and start playing to win today. All right, the first one applies to everyone in here, everyone listening online or whatever. It's pretty simple. If you want to play to win, then jump back into church here. All right, let me explain what I mean by that, because you're all sitting here, so you're like, well, I'm here and I'm listening to you, so I jumped back in, right? It's like, yes and no. That's not quite what I'm talking about. See, Flatirons was never designed to be a show. I know it comes across that way sometimes, and we certainly have our fair share of haters who believe that this place is all about a weekly concert and a TED Talk, all right? But that's not what it's about, all right? That's not the goal of our church. That's not what we're aiming at. The goal is to hear from Jesus and live in community with one another. Like, our church is called Flatirons Community Church. Right? The goal is to team up with one another so that we can engage in focus and self-discipline and training together. The goal is to get encouragement from one another and get guidance from Jesus Christ so that we can play to win. And when we're here on the weekend, this thing that we're doing right now, it's just our way of taking a weekly timeout every single week. All right, let's huddle up. All right, let's get connected. Let's encourage one another, and let's hear from Jesus and then put his words into practice so that we can then go back out onto the field and play to win. And so that's one thing you could do to start playing to win, is just jump back in here. And I don't mean just attend. I mean, hear the words of Jesus Christ and put them into practice. And then if you want to take another step, get involved in community here. Go join a small group or start a watch party at home at your house or start volunteering. These are all great ways to make a big church feel smaller so that you can find community. Jump back into this place or jump into this place for the first time. A couple other ways that you can start playing to win. And these two are for two very specific groups of people. It's two things that we have coming up at Flatirons right around the corner that I'm very excited about. All right, the first one is this. For the first time in about 4 years, I think, here at Flatirons, we are finally again rolling out a young adult ministry. All right, and I'm so insanely pumped about this. So, all right, clap. I love when you clap because then I can drink water. You guys clapping more often. No, I'm so pumped about this. So Ambry Sheehan is our young adult director. Christian Cambier is our associate director. A lot of you guys already know those people. They're amazing leaders, amazing pastors. For the last few months, Ambry and Christian have been working their tails off to design a young adult ministry that is created both by and for the young adults who call this place home. And so for the last few months, they've been doing focus groups, and they're asking good questions, and they're asking, how can we serve you better as a church, and what do you need out of this place? And they're living in community with these young adults. And I've had the honor and the privilege of getting to be involved in all of that. All right, and the number one thing that we've learned from you is that the average young adult here at church is dying for two things. All right, the first one is you've got to get connected in meaningful relationship with other people who are following Jesus and playing to win. And the other one is you need the freedom to ask some really big, almost existential questions about faith and Jesus and life in general. And so we're going to start doing that together. Our young adult ministry is designed for anyone ages 22 to 30. Right? I know right away some of you are going well, crap, I'm 20, right? I'm in school, I'm in college. What is there for me? A few weeks ago, Jim brought up Carl up on the stage. If you were here, you remember that. Carl is our new Next Gen pastor. Next Gen means cradle to college. And so if you're in that college age range right now, I'm just asking you to trust me and hang on tight. Carl is working on a college ministry right now, and you'll hear about it at some point. All right? But the reason that we picked ages 22 to 30 for our young adult ministry is because after talking with you, we discovered there's something really unique that happens in that age range, and specifically for this generation. Because basically, when you're in school, community is built in for you. Right? You go to class with one another, and you live in the same house or the same dorm with other people, and there are events and social clubs and parties and fraternities, but then typically you graduate, and you got your diploma in your hand, and you enter into the workforce, and all of your friends go back to the states where they live, or they go off to go find jobs where they're at, and then suddenly, almost overnight, you're the only person your age that you know. Right? Or you're the only person your age at the office. It's a shock to the system. And then on top of that, once you're done with school, you're largely done with people teaching you what you need to learn. And so you have a diploma in your hand, and you know a lot about civil engineering, right? But no one taught you or trained you in how to live the good life with Jesus. And so you've got this double whammy, where you're suddenly trying to figure out your own worldview and identity and faith and your place in the world, and you're trying to figure it out alone because you lost your community. If that's you and you're a young adult and that resonates with you, then I'm going to ask you a blunt and direct question. Do you want to get well? And if the answer is yes, then you've got to get up and you've got to get involved in this young adult ministry. After this, at all of our campuses, you can head out to the lobby, look for people wearing these shirts. It's that color with that logo on it. Those are our young adults. You can go out there to get more information or just to meet a friendly face. But if you're a young adult and you want to get plugged in, here's the big thing that I need you to know right now, and you have to do. You have to clear your calendar for Thursday night, November 11th. Thursday night, November 11th. Scan the QR code to get more information, get connected. November 11th is our first official young adult gathering, and you just can't miss it. All right, we're gonna get together at the Denver campus. You're gonna meet Ambry, you're gonna meet Christian. I'm gonna teach at the thing, and we're going to begin honoring our promise to you, which is we're going to create community that you can thrive in, and we're going to start tackling life's biggest questions together. All right? November 11th, 7 p.m. at the Denver campus. Do not miss that. All right, one more thing, and then we'll pray and get out of here. And this other way that you can play to win is for the men in the room. All right, so for the men in the room, if you want to get up off the couch and jump back into the game, then to put it bluntly, you need to commit to being here for the next 5 weeks. And that's because, again, for the first time in years, next weekend, Jim is going to kick off and start our man series. It's called Man Down, Man Up. It's basically an extension of what we have started talking about today together. And what I mean by that is like, the truth is, for most of the men in this room, life has knocked us down. All right? Marriage, parenting, career, I don't know what it is for you, you name it, but it laid us out flat. And honestly, that's just the reality of being a human being. All right? But then oftentimes, it's especially a reality for men. But for the next few weeks throughout our man series, we're essentially asking the same question that Jesus asked us today, which is, do you want to get well? Okay, I cannot answer that question for you. You are your own man. So do you want to get well or not? Like, do you want your marriages to get well? And do you want your parenting to get well? And do you want your sex life to get well? Like, do you want to have your spiritual and emotional health get well? Like, for the men in the room, does anybody want to win this thing? Like, do you want to lead or bulldoze? And do you want to protect or infect? And do you want to lift up the people around you, or do you want to tear them down? Like, in short, do you want to step into healthy, God-designed masculinity, or are you going to mail that one in too? And I know that our world says that masculinity is toxic. I just call BS. All right, I wouldn't call it masculinity, but I guess there's distortions of masculinity that are unhelpful, unhealthy, and damaging. And Jesus would call them unhealthy, unhelpful, and damaging. But at the same time, God-designed, Christ-centered masculinity is not toxic. And I actually believe that the world is starving for it. See, I believe that, okay, claps. Get a drink. I do mean that. The world needs a lot of things, but I think that one of the things that the world needs right now is more men who have submitted their lives to the authority of Jesus Christ, so that we can then turn to our people and turn to the world around us in true strength. And true strength, according to Jesus, looks like us laying down our desires and our impulses and our selfishness and our egos, and we lay down our own lives in the act of self-sacrifice so that we can provide for and protect and lift up the people under our care. That doesn't sound toxic to me. That sounds like Jesus Christ. And so for the men in the room, I know that life has knocked you down. Me too. But the truth is that the people who depend on us, like our wives and our girlfriends and our employees and our friends, you name it, they're not giving us a pass. Rightfully so. They shouldn't. Instead, they are waiting for us to get up. The story of Jesus Christ is a story about getting knocked down and 3 days later getting back up. So be like your king and get back up. Our people are waiting for us to re-engage, and our people are waiting for us to get back into the game, and our people are waiting for our masculinity to become Christ-like. And so for the men in the room, I don't care what you have going on. Cancel your Sunday plans and show the people around you that you took one step that you've dedicated to figuring out how I can be a more Christ-like man. Get off the couch and get you and your people into this room for 5 weeks. No excuses, because if you want to get well, get up. Flatirons, I want to leave you with this right now. All right, because I know you, and I know a lot of you, and I know your stories, and I know that some of us have taken some L's, and we've suffered some defeats, and so we've got this mentality of defeat thing going on in our heads. But at the same time, we follow a God who takes death, and he changes it into life, and he takes defeat, and he changes it into victory. And so he did not give you a spirit of defeat. For God gave us not a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control. And so in that spirit of power and love and self-control, let's get off the couch and get back into the game and start playing to win together. Let's pray. So God, I thank you for this message from Jesus, this miracle that we get to watch him perform, and the truth that lies behind that miracle. God, there are a lot of people in this room or watching right now, listening right now, that we just feel defeated, right? Like we might not have been able to articulate that till today. It's like something's been off, and then it wasn't until we're sitting listening to this, it's like, yeah, that's it. I'm just defeated. I'm playing like I've lost the thing already. But that spirit is not from you. You do not give us a spirit of fear. You do not give us a spirit of defeat. You give us a spirit of power and love and self-control. So God, for anyone in the room who's listening who feels defeated right now, I'm praying that you encourage us. God, would you challenge us to get off the couch and get back into the game, just like one step in the right direction with our life. God, for any of the young adults in the room that any of that stuff resonated with them and they just feel disconnected and they feel lonely and they're not sure how to find other people their age and they've got like all these big questions about life and Google just doesn't work for finding answers. Like, God, for those people, would you encourage them to show up November 11th, to go out and talk to people in the lobbies and to just get connected? I know you have community for them. Would you help them find it here? And then God, for the men in this room, would you challenge us to get here, to lean in, and to listen to you? God, masculinity, the way you designed it, is not toxic. It's a balm to the world. But we have got to put ourselves under your authority or it's just damaging, and we've done a lot of damage. God, starting next week, could you start teaching us what masculinity looks like? God, I thank you so much for this room, and I thank you for this message, and I thank you for these people, and ultimately, I thank you so much for your Son, Jesus Christ, the ultimate man, and it's in his holy name that I pray. Amen.
Would you stand and sing with us? Sing. People come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. So don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from.
His name is Jesus. Come on, let's sing that again. So swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Yes, it is. So swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. Oh, creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. Oh, His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Every voice we declare. Oh, 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 oh. His name is Come on, we declare this together. Swing wide, oh you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. Oh creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Come on, one more time. We sing the name above our names. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in His blood. Jesus, light of heaven, friend forever, His kingdom come. Come on, let's lift up a loud shout of praise for the name of Jesus that's high above any name. We worship. Well, hey, Flatirons, thanks so much for singing with us. Thanks so much for being with us today. If you need prayer for anything at all, we have a great prayer team that meets right up here. So we'd love to pray with you guys. Other than that, hope you have a great week. See you next week for Man Down, Man Up. Love you guys.